What's going on, everybody? We are back, and I have a very special guest today and a show that I've been looking forward to for a long time. I've talked a little bit about it, how this was going to be coming. So, just a little bit of a review. About a month ago, maybe a few weeks ago, Mike Moynihan asked me to sub for him on his episode of, on Bench Clear Media. And I was honored to do it. And he asked me to pick a guest. So I picked a guest of somebody who I've been a fan of his channel. I've been a fan of just the way he interacts with people and the way he carries himself. And so I had Darren from Return to Collecting on. And we did that episode and we had so much fun. Mike kind of said, "Hey, go about an hour." And an hour was up and we were like, "Wait, we have to stop?" And so I'm like, I immediately contacted him and said, "Darren, we're going to do this again." And you all know me. I'm not a channel that has a lot of guests on, not because I'm like, I don't know why. I just don't. In fact, that's one of the things I'm going to try to do more of in the coming year. So I invited Darren on to do a year in review, top pickups of the year, looking forward to top targets for next year. And so that's what we've got going on today. So, Darren, welcome. Thank you for coming on. Now, again, I don't have a lot of guests, so I don't have a ton of experience doing this, but I'm excited for you to be here.
Thanks, Greg. Me too. I appreciate you having me on.
So, now I just wanted to start when we were on Mike podcast, when we filled in and we did that episode. We talked about kind of how do you prioritize budget? How do you decide what the next card is that you're going to buy? And so we kind of went through that, and I was asking you for a lot of advice, and you gave what I thought was some really good suggestions, and I've done a bunch of them.
Oh, good.
So I'm not a guy who just wants to, say, "Oh, what do you think?" And then I don't actually. I actually have implemented several of the things. So one of the things you said that what you do is you kind of make a giant list in an Excel spreadsheet of all the cards that you're kind of targeting, and then you kind of put them in tiers, and the tiers are based mostly on kind of price points.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing that, and I thought it would be faster than it would be. It's taken a long time because I have right now, I think I have about 80 cards on there, and I don't even think I'm to 1950 yet. So I'm going to have to figure that out, but
Nice.
I'm working on that. So the list is coming. I'm putting in prices. That's one of the reasons it's taken a while, is I'm comping cards, getting price points at grades and different conditions. And then the other thing that I thought was a great suggestion is you said, don't just have your card account, have like kind of like your goal card, we called it, Grail/goal card account. And then when you hit certain levels and money in your card budget account, kind of move some over to the bigger cards so that you kind of are saving for the big cards. And so I did that. I went in, I made a second account. So now I have an extra checking account, which is for my card budget. And then I have a savings account and then another savings account, which I'm moving money over based on certain criteria that I've kind of set per your recommendation. So
nice.
I think I'm moving in the right direction.
Good. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I appreciate your input. And if anybody hasn't watched that, I encourage you to check it out. Maybe I'll put a link in the description of this particular video to our first conversation. And again, as always, if you're not a subscriber of Darren's, I highly recommend that you check it out. He recently did his top 100 card countdown. And I mean, there's some serious eye candy in the video. So check that out. I'll put a link to that in the description below as well. There's a part 1, right, which is like cards 51 to 100, and then the other one is 1 to 50. I'll put a link to both of those in the comments below, or in the description below, so you can access those. But highly recommend that.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate that.
Of course. So, picking your brain again, right? So here we are at the end of 2023, about to start 2024. In fact, we're recording this a couple of days previously, but this is actually going to post on New Year's Eve. And so it's the last day of, 2023. And I said, let's first look at our favorite 5 pickups from 2023. So
Yep.
that's the first thing that we're going to do and go through those 5. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the most expensive pickups, but just your favorite 5.
Yep.
So why don't you go ahead and share with us your first 5? Now, I didn't put mine in order. Did you put yours in a particular order?
Not particularly. Well, I think
Okay.
I did it like reverse chronological. I have the newest one first in my stack.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's do
Well,
that.
I actually have a runner up. I bought a box of 87 tops like 3 months ago, and I'll pull a
Okay.
pack every once in a while and open it. I opened one this morning. I got your namesake.
Look at that. I remember that's awesome. I remember pulling that card as a kid. This would have been, oh man, 1987. So I
Sure.
was 8. And I remember pulling that pack and having that card in it, and I was like pumped. Like I
Nice.
was super excited to pull that card. That is
Nice.
awesome.
That's awesome.
Um, so that's number 6. That's your
Yes.
number 6 favorite
Yes.
pickup. So give me give me another one of your favorite cards from
So
2023.
my number 5 card. This card, I had the card as a kid. I don't know where it went. It's probably in a box at my parents' house somewhere. It obviously wasn't graded. Um, I had the complete set, and it was in there. But it's a very iconic card, and I realized probably 5, 6 months ago I didn't have it. So I was like, "Whoa, why don't I have this card?" So I picked it up, and I'm just super pumped to have it because it's the Griffey Upper Deck rookie.
Oh yeah, and it's a 10.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if you saw my video on this card. I mean, so the thing about that, first, let's talk about the card.
Mhm.
That card, it's the game changer set in baseball cards, because
Yep.
cards went from like the 87 Greg Nettles you just showed, the 87 tops Greg Nettles, where it's like it's literally like cardboard,
Mhm.
to a much heavier card stock and a glossier card stock. And there's also the hologram on the
Mhm.
back, which had, made the security of the cards a lot better. And at the time, that was like a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a beautiful card of one of the greatest. I mean, the guy's got $1 million smile. I mean,
Right.
it's like it's got everything going for it, right?
Mhm.
Hey, show me one more time.
The
So he's
kid.
showing his 1989 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. in a 10. And that is such a beautiful card. And it's so funny. Like, one of the things that dates it is the gold chains he's got on,
Yep.
with
Uh-huh.
with the little medallion on it.
Yep.
So tell me, why is that one of your 5 favorite pickups of the year?
Just because I think it's probably the most iconic card from the period that I collected as a kid.
Hmm.
I would say that, I collected from probably 86 to 90, 91.
Hmm.
When I think back when I was a kid, the cards that I thought were iconic that, we'd pull from packs would have been a little bit before my time, but the 84 Mattingly rookie, that was a huge, like, iconic one for me.
Now which one? Which 84 Mattingly rookie? Because there were 3 of them, right?
Yes, so the tops.
Okay.
Yeah, so the tops was the one that I always wanted as a kid. So the tops, the Dunruss too. That one, probably say that, the 85 McGuire Olympic card, the 85 tops Clemens rookie. Those are the kind of cards when I was a kid. I was like, oh, I really want these cards, and I would say that this Griffey is kind of part of that. It's like if I take the 5 or 6 most iconic cards from that like 6-year period that I collected as a kid, this is probably, I mean, I would say in there with the Mattingly for me, the Mattingly and some of those other ones. And I have the other ones. I didn't buy them this year though. I bought them when I got back into collecting. That's why this one for me is kind of cool because I've been collecting again for 4 years now, and I don't know why I never picked this one up. And it was kind of like, wait, I don't have that card. What?
Right.
So
And I don't know if you saw it, but I did a video at one point where I answered a question and I explained how I've never had that card.
mm,
And for Christmas one year, my dad bought my brother and myself a box of Upper Deck, and they were crazy expensive at the time.
mhm,
It would be like buying a box of National Treasures now or something.
right.
And he got half the box, and I got half the box. And the big chase card was the Griffey, and the number 2 chase card was the Gary Sheffield.
Yep.
And my brother got a Griffey, and he got 1 or 2 Sheffields, and I got neither.
Oh
And I'm
man.
just like, I've never had it. Now why a 10?
Why to go with the 10? Just because it's a newer card. I try to buy the grade for the decades. I try to go
Mhm,
collector's grade. So for this one, technically would have been like an 8 or a 9.
mhm,
But I think I view this card. There's probably a few handful of cards in the hobby where the card itself is iconic, but value wise, it's fairly reasonable, except for the 10.
mhm,
In some cases, the 10 is still somewhat reasonable, right? Like I think about like an Ozzie Smith rookie
mhm.
or a Ricky Henderson rookie, right? Where pick it up in an 8 for $100, couple $100. Pick it up
Yeah,
in
I
a
think it's
9, you
about
might.
200, 220 and an 8, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so low, like in the lower 100s, and then the 9, it might jump up to about 1,000. But then the 10, 100 grand, 50 to 100
Right,
grand,
right.
right? So I kind of view this card similarly. Obviously, it's not nearly to that extreme, but
Mhm,
I figured if I was going to get it, and I had budgeted for a couple other things. I went to a card show, and the stuff I was hoping to pick up at the card show I couldn't find, so I had a little bit extra budget at the time, and I said, look, I want to get the Griffey. So I'm going to splurge on the 10 just because to
mhm.
me, when I think of like the iconic cards from like when I was a kid, regardless of sport, I think the two that I really that come to mind for me is this Griffey and the Jordan rookie, the Fleer.
Mm,
Right. So I think of those two. I'm like, well, if I'm going to get this one, I want to get it in a good grade. Now, if it was, 2020 pricing on this, I would have got a 9, but
right,
it did come down considerably. So I figured I'd go with the 10 on that one.
right. Well, very cool. I'm jealous of that one. So my first one, because we're going reverse chronological. So this is one I just did a video on the other day, so you probably saw it. And in fact, one of the things I said on my video the other day is I said, I've got 5 tips for the upcoming year, 5 thoughts
Yeah.
or goals of my own. And one of them is you kind of need to have a hobby buddy. And you might have one hobby buddy, you might have 5 hobby buddies, but you kind of need a hobby buddy because it just makes it more fun.
Right.
And so when I got this card and it showed up, I think I maybe even before it showed up, I sent a picture of it to a few people, you being one of them, because whether you like it or not, you're one of my hobby buddies.
Love it.
So, and it is really one of my grail football cards. And
Nice.
I've long talked about being a vintage football card collector, but the Joe Montana 81, rookie card was a huge card as a kid. And then the Jim Brown, um, the Jim Brown was sort of the other one.
Yeah,
And
that's a beautiful
so,
card. That's it's very iconic, and
yeah,
I'm shocked at how well centered it is because I've literally seen eights that aren't that well centered.
yeah. I mean, it's probably something like, I don't know, 60-40 or so.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons I went for it is because on this card, the 2 main things that happened that I found was the black on the face of it, on the coloring. There's some snow because it's black, and it's also a
Right.
different type of cardstock, similar to the 57 tops had a lot of surface damage issues. The 58 tops have a lot of surface stuff, and then the other issue is the centering. And I have from that same set, I have the Johnny Unitas it's on my wall, a 6, and it's fairly off center, but it's super sharp.
Mhm.
And then I have the Bart Star in a 5.5, and it's
Nice.
like perfectly centered.
Nice.
And so I was kind of like, for that card, centering was more important to me than that surface. So there's a little bit of that snow in there, but like it totally checks all the boxes that I needed, and I'm pumped to get that one.
Yeah, that's an awesome one. That's awesome. So out of all the vintage football guys, why Jim Brown as your favorite for that one?
Well, if you look at like pretty much any rankings list, and you say who's the best football player of all time, right? Um, Everybody's got Jim Brown 1, 2, or 3.
Yep.
And then Jerry Rice is 1, 2, or 3. And then, more recently, you start seeing like the Tom Brady's of the world. But Joe Montana was, up there. And then you have some defensive players like, Lawrence Taylor's up there. Dick Butkus is up there. Um, but to me, almost all those guys aren't vintage.
Right.
The best vintage player
Hmm.
is Jim Brown. And, I remember, literally as a kid, I'd go to shows, and I mean, it seems hard to believe now, but like you'd go to these big card shows, and there would be, Hank Aaron signing for $5 or $10, Duke
Hmm.
Snyder, $5, Willie Mays, $5 or $10, Mickey Mantle. I mean, I paid $20 for my Mickey Mantle. I paid $39 for my Ted Williams,
Hmm.
both on balls. And it's like, I remember going to shows and like hearing Jim Brown, and that was like the one that caught everyone's as like, oh, Jim Brown's here. Like,
Right.
he's just kind of, and then he did some things socially, and I know there are some rumors about some personal things that he got into, but he just had this impact. He's just like, he's Ryan Nolan. I'm a big fan of Breakout Cards,
Hmm.
his channel, and Ryan, I've heard him say many times, and I've heard other people say it, is Jim Brown is the Mickey Mantle of football cards.
Hmm.
He's
Yeah,
like,
makes sense.
he's the guy to collect. And so I had to sell a couple of cards to get it, but I love it.
Nice.
All right, number 4, or again, no particular order, but how about your second one from 2023?
So my second is reverse chronological. Is my Satchel Paige.
Oh yeah. Now I think you showed this one when we were doing the golden age of cardboard.
I think I did. I mean, I
But the centering on that is beautiful.
yeah.
And he has a 49 Bowman, and he has the 48-49 Leaf, doesn't he?
Yep. Yep. In the
And but
40, so I don't have the 48, 49 Leaf on any of my lists. I
mhm,
have it on my spreadsheet, but it's not in any list because that thing in like a 2 is,
yeah,
5 figures. So that's
yeah.
more of like a dream card. That's in my list of when my wife finally hits Powerball, I'm getting that card.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Now that is a massive card, and frankly, in my opinion, it's the better looking of the two.
I
Like,
agree. I agree.
when
I'm
now that
sorry.
the community basically agrees 49 is the leaf year. I mean, it was stamped 48 or whatever, but it really was 49. I mean, you really can make the argument, or I don't know if it is an argument, but the 49 Bowmans and the 49 Leafs are essentially rookie cards, and
Correct.
so it's the better looking of the two, in my opinion, and the color on it is, and that one's really well centered too. So that's just an amazing card.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
And
I
and
think
go ahead.
I was gonna say that from a rookie perspective, I agree. Like that's why I picked this one because technically you can make the argument that it is in fact his rookie card because it came out the same
Hmm.
year as the Leaf.
Hmm.
Um, what's funny is earlier in the year, before like when I first got back into collecting, I wasn't, I had heard that the Leafs were made in 49, but they were stamped 48, and I wasn't 100% on it. I didn't totally get that. So I bought the Musial Leaf rookie earlier this year for his rookie card. And
Hmm.
then now I realize it's not really his rookie card because the 48 Bowman's his rookie card because even though it's a
Hmm.
48 Leaf, it's really a 49 Leaf. So that was a big one for me that I got the car. I love that. I love the Musial, so I don't regret buying it at all. It's just
Mhm.
now I need to go buy a 48 Bowman because I don't have his rookie card anymore.
Well, you have the one that has color on it. There are a
Yeah,
few like that. I mean, Spawn's the same way,
yeah,
where Spawn has the 48 Bowman, but then he has that 49 Leaf. And for years, the 49 was the more expensive one, like the Musial. The more expensive one is the Leaf. And then, I mean, it's just semantics. I mean, it's, whatever.
mhm,
Um, all right. So this one, I don't think I've shown publicly. I think I sent you a picture of it, maybe, but I haven't shown this one on my channel yet. So, again, one of the things I like to do is show off my pickups over the year. I do the monthly review of all my pickups. So, a lot of all the cards that everyone's going to see, they've seen before, but they don't necessarily know my favorites. This one, nobody has seen yet. And I'm super excited for this one. And it's a Bobby Jones rookie card.
oh, nice.
So Bobby Jones, like at the time, early turn of the century, 20s and stuff, what is the golfer. And and this is his rookie card. And one of the things I've been really, I'm always saying to people, hey, collect what you like. Don't worry about the value. But I think that's harder to do than we realize, because what
Mhm,
happens is you're like, well, if I buy what I like and nobody else likes it, it may not have any value. So if I decide to move out of it, I'm not
right.
going to have anyone to sell it to, right?
Mhm,
But and so it's it's like you're like, well, if I go with the Willie May, the 63 tops Willie Mays, like somebody's going to want that. I could put that on eBay and sell that, in
right.
an hour if I wanted. But if I buy the Blackbeard pirate card from Allen and Ginter, which is the Grail pirate card of the pirate cards that I collect, I don't know how many people want that.
Right.
So but
Yeah.
golf cards, I've always liked them. I mean, I
Mhm,
grew up as a golfer, and in fact, I have a golf analogy I want to share with everyone here in just a second before we continue. But it's like I love them. I love the cards. This is, a tobacco card from 1926, and it's really well centered. And the other thing, I mean, and here's another thing that I've said on my channel is I've said, guys, don't just look on eBay. So that card I bid for on eBay the other day, and I'm going in 10 directions at the same time. So bear with me as I go through this. But everybody's saying the market's down, the market's down, the market's down. So there was a PSA 3 Bobby Jones rookie card that was up on eBay the other day. And the highest it had ever sold for, I went to the PSA auctions price realized list, and the highest that card had ever sold for was $356. And this one it was beautiful. It was in an SGC holder. And
nice.
I said, I need that card. So I'm like, I'm going to overbid for it. I bid $406. I'm like, I'm going to bid almost 20% higher than it's ever sold for. It sold for 480.
Ooh,
So it sold for 40% higher than it had ever sold for in a down market. I
yeah.
wasn't even close.
Mhm,
So I'm like, and it was a 3, and I'm like, 2-3 is kind of my sweet spot. And I said, okay. So I just did a few searches and started looking where else is there one for sale, because I still really want the card. Now I'm like set on it because that's how I just get, neurotic like that. And I found that one on Golden. And it was, Golden has a marketplace and they have the auctions. And the marketplace had that card in a 2, pretty darn well centered, nice looking card. And the guy was asking $250.
oh, nice.
And I'm like, the 3 just sold for well over 450, and he wants 250. So I made him an offer of 200 and he took it.
Nice.
So I'm like, I got it for $200, and the 3 that I bid the day before on, literally the day before on, sold for 2.5 times that much.
It's nuts.
So sometimes we can't just look on eBay. We have to look on other places.
No, I agree.
So one last thing before we go to your next pickup and I want to use golf as the analogy. So, I've played golf since I was like 6. I played competitively in high school. I played, some tournaments and stuff as a kid. And I got to the point where I was a fairly decent golfer. And I'll go out golfing with some people sometimes, and they'll be like, I don't know if we should golf together. You won't have any fun golfing with me because, I shoot like 100. And I'm like, no, 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 it doesn't matter. Like, if I shoot 77 today and you shoot 107, I could have just as much fun,
Mhm.
even though our scores are different. Like, it doesn't matter. And people are very self conscious about that. So, today, as we go through your pickups and your goal cards, I'm the 107 golfer, and you're the guy you're the 2 handicap today. So we can collect and enjoy it together and
Yes.
be in different stratospheres and still be excited for each other in the pickup. So when you're looking for your hobby buddy out there, it's okay if the person is collecting at a different price point than you, and you could still have a lot of fun together.
100% agree. At the national this year, actually, I was there with my buddy, my brother, and my dad were all there. So I spent most of the time on the floor with them. But every once in a while, I'd break away because I'd see somebody, I'd see another YouTuber walking around, and I had a great time going with them and looking at cards and having watching them buy their stuff. It's always exciting. It's not so much to me. It's not, hey, I bought, it'd be really cool to be with someone who's like, hey, you want to walk over with me to buy a 52 tops mantle and an 8? I'd be like, yeah, sweet. But
Yeah.
it's really more of watching somebody buy something or being with someone when they buy something that they want, right? It doesn't really
Mhm.
matter what it is, it's what they want. Like
Mhm.
I've got a card in my stack right now. I just bought that's a PSA 1, but I love it.
Mhm.
Thrilled to have it. So like, it's one of those things where I don't think it's not I think in the hobby it's more, I think it kind of applies to all collecting, right? It's fun to have friends that collect, that are passionate about collecting. It's not so much, it's not a competition. It's
Yeah.
buying the stuff that you want to buy and enjoying it, and seeing the joy on people's faces when they get something that they want regardless of the price point of it.
Perfectly said. Completely agree with you. All right, your next pickup in reverse chronological order.
So it's not exactly a different chronological order. It's the same chronological order as the previous.
Okay. Oh man. Now that is a massive card. So if you're listening, not watching, he's holding up a 49 Bowman Jackie Robinson in an SGC 5, and it's got incredible color, and it's really well centered for a 49 Bowman. It's really well centered. I mean, that is gorgeous. So tell me about, when did you decide you wanted a 49 Bowman Jackie Robinson? And when you were looking to get an early Jackie Robinson, why did you target that one?
A couple of reasons. I've always wanted a early Jackie Robinson card, because I think Jackie Robinson is, you know, if you take, not looking at it purely from a statistics perspective, I think Jackie Robinson is probably the most important player in Major League Baseball history. So I've always wanted an early card of his. I've always wanted one in a pretty good condition, because I've seen a lot of those cards from like the late 40s. Once they drop in, like I've seen some twos that are beautiful, but I typically see the opposite. I typically see like three, fours, and fives that, if they were a modern card, would have got like a 1, right?
Hmm.
So I knew I wanted one, and I wanted one with really good eye appeal. I got the page at at the national and a 5, so I thought it'd be kind of cool if I could get matching 5s for the
Hmm.
two, for the Jackie and the Satch.
Hmm.
So uh, I actually, on this one, this was a gift. My parents asked me what I wanted for my birthday's right around Thanksgiving, right?
Hmm.
So for, combo birthday, holidays, everything, basically, like they gave me a gift and they said, this is your gift for basically everything for the year.
Wow.
And I was like, cool. I didn't know what it was. And then the package showed up like 2 weeks ago from the eBay grading place. And
So wait a second. So they picked it out. You didn't even know that that one. was the card that was coming? They just said, your dad's just like, I know that he'd like this one, this card, this look and everything?
More or less. I mean, he asked me what players. So they came for Thanksgiving and they got here a week before Thanksgiving. So he walked around my office and looked at all my cards. And then he asked me, what players am I thinking about for my next round of cards? So I gave him like 3 or 4 players. And he loves Jackie Robinson as well. He doesn't have this card. A he has a 48-49 Leaf Jackie
Mhm,
Robinson in an
mhm.
8.
Oh my god.
He bought it like
In an 8?
he paid less than 5 figures for it like 7 years ago
In an 8.
in an 8.
Oh
Yeah.
my, I
So
mean, that's
yeah,
like a
it's like whenever I go visit them,
$100,000 card, isn't it?
yeah, at the peak of COVID, he had to get special everything for it, insurance. He had to keep it in the safe deposit box. Like it was, but it's come down considerably since the peak
Oh
of COVID.
my
Yeah, like when I
god.
go visit them,
That this is crazy. This proves you can enjoy someone else's collection. As you're telling me this, I just got the goosebumps
right?
thinking about a PSA 8 Jackie Robinson Leaf.
So it's
Oh
not a
my,
PSA though. It's some other grade. It's not a PSA or an SGC. It's some other. I can't remember what it is. It's a he bought it in an auction like probably 7 years ago ish, and it was
oh
some other. It was one of the other grading companies that doesn't
sure,
exist anymore. Like I've seen
sure.
other cards from it. I can't remember what it was called. It's got like a silver logo on it. So let's say it crossed over. It might cross over at like a 7. I mean, it's super clean. But so he has that, and he has like a 55 and a 56. So he knows like that's his thing. So when I said Jackie Robinson was one of the players, I think he got excited and he went out and tried to find something pretty sweet. So
Wow.
that's why yeah, that's how I got that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Well, that's a beautiful card.
Thanks.
Congratulations on that one.
Thanks.
So, one of the things, that was my goal for 2023 was I didn't have any pre-war cards, was zero. And I was like, at the end of last year, I'm like, I'm ready to take the step and branch out and go there. And now that I'm there, I've lost some of my interest for some of the post-war stuff because I love the pre-war stuff so much.
Mhm.
And so literally I had zero tobacco cards or anything. I'm looking on my wall. My dad for Christmas, my dad got me a wall display like you have behind you. So I
Nice.
put a bunch of my cards up and now I've got like 14 or 15 T206, T205s.
Nice.
But so this was one. This is my Carl Hubble in a 3. I showed
Nice.
that one fairly recently. Again, this one I bought maybe a month and a half ago. But Carl Hubble has 2 cards in the 33 Gaudi set. Again, this one's an SGC 3, but I love the color. I love the centering.
Mhm.
I love that it's the action shot instead of the one where he's just kind of hanging out with the red background. Um, Super excited to pick that card up just because it was that the first. I think that was the first Gaudi card I ever bought. So,
Nice. It's a
like,
beautiful card.
yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things where it's like, the grade, whatever, and I've been talking about this recently. I mean, I know it's assigned a 3, but my goodness,
Mhm.
I think it's a beautiful. It's just got a little touch on the corners, but other than that, it's fantastic. So, I don't know how
Yeah.
they could be that much better than that, in a card that was printed 90 years ago.
Right. No, I agree with you. It kinda goes back to I watched one of your videos the other day, and you talked about how people sometimes will define their card by the grade,
Mhm.
and I think that and I agree with you, doing that is silly because you have cards like that that look like if that was raw, you'd look at it and say, "Wow, this is like a mint condition Carl Hubble card," right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, 2 left on 2023. So why don't you show me your fourth one?
This one's about a decade older, but it's the,
Oh,
DiMaggio.
yeah. Oh, that's now I remember seeing this one, that you showing it, but I forgot how nice it was. Man. So he's showing a 38 Gaudy heads up Joe DiMaggio in a SGC4. And I mean, those corners look really nice. A lot of those are super rounded corners, but
Yeah.
they have a clear point to them. And
Yeah,
it's hard to tell the centering from here, but
the
your
centering's
point is
pretty solid. It's a little it's shifted just a bit this way or this way. It's
mhm,
shifted about a little bit this way. I'd say it's probably like 75-25.
okay.
Maybe not
Yeah, you
quite that
can't
bad.
tell with those borders, they're kind of soft borders. They're not like
Mm,
hard borders like the T206s have where they're the clear white lines around them.
right.
So yeah, I mean that's a fabulous card. And tell me, why did you want? I mean, I know why anybody would want that, but why go with that card instead of a different card at the same price point? Like, why were you like, I need a 38 Gaudi
Well, I
Joe
want
DiMaggio?
so it's funny when I before I got back into collecting this time, I thought about it's funny, Shane from Shoebox Legends had this he talked about this in a video he had like a month ago and he said it, I started laughing. I'm like, I totally agree. To me, DiMaggio growing up, when I was growing up, I'd look at stats and I'd be like, oh, his career stats were okay, right?
Hmm.
He had this hitting streak, which is cool. Um, but you hear the old timers talking about DiMaggio, like my grandparents, like my grandfather's friends talking about DiMaggio, about how he was like the best ever. And I'm like, how can he be the best ever? He doesn't have 500 home runs. He had a pretty good batting average. And so I never thought of him as like one of the greatest of all time. I'm like, yeah, he was a really good player that kind of, I viewed him as a guy that kind of filled the gap between Lou Gehrig and Mickey Mantle.
Sure.
And when I got back into collecting, I started looking more into not just like the career statistics, but looking into the players themselves, like what they were able to accomplish. Look at their season stuff. Look at World Series rings, things like that. And I really kind of changed my position on DiMaggio from being, yeah, he was a good player for the Yankees, kind of in that gap between Gehrig and Mantle, to being, if you look at, he didn't play a ton of seasons and he missed, some seasons for World War II. But if you look at, the seasons that he played, he was an incredible player. And I had a whole new respect for DiMaggio, at which point I said, well, I want to get one of his cards. And, I looked at his leaf. I looked at his 41 play ball, the color one. I think those are
Hmm.
both beautiful cards.
Hmm.
But then I actually at the National, the first night I got there Thursday. So a bunch of guys got there Wednesday and then they actually walked the floor Thursday. I got there Thursday night and went to Mike Moynihan's party. And while I was there, Adam from Vintage Sanctuary, he had just picked one up. And I had
Hmm.
never actually held a real one. So he's like, hey, check out what I picked up today. And I saw it and I was like, holy crap, I need this card.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I couldn't
So,
find one at the National. Like, and that's the thing I realized when I started going after it, it's a hard card to find.
mm,
Regardless of the grade, it's a hard card to find. Like when at the National, I was looking around trying to find like a 1 or a 2. I couldn't find any. I figured I think Adam bought the only one. um,
Dylan from Double D Vintage Cards just bought one. I think his is assigned a 1.5, and
oh,
it's
nice.
beautiful. I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the cool things about these older cards is like, and I said this recently on a video too, is the older the card, the less corners matter to me, the
Yeah.
less paper loss on the back matters to me, the less centering matters to me. Just having the card is insane.
Right. I agree with you. Like if I were to, for example, if I were to get this graded and it was like crushed and it
he's
came back
showing
as
he's
like a
showing the
2.
87 tops Greg Nettles card he pulled from a pack. Go ahead.
Right. Like if I were to get that graded and let's say it got wrinkled or something and it got a 2, and somebody looked at it, the first thing they'd say about a modern card that had an issue would be like, that looks like crap. Right.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. As you go further and further back in vintage, it's not so much the condition, it's just the card, right? Because I mean, I've seen, like there was a T206 Honus Wagner that sold in an auction recently that was trimmed. The entire white border was trimmed off.
Yeah.
And when I first saw it, the first thing that popped in my head was that looks like crap. But after before my brain fully even processed me thinking that, I was like, it's a Honus T206 Honus Wagner, so it doesn't matter,
Right.
right? And I
Right.
think that's the case. Like as you get further back in vintage, the obviously, if you could find something super high quality, that's awesome. But in reality, I think it's there's so much rarer. It's just, to me, having it
Yeah.
is being able to see it, being able to show it to people, I think is cool, right? Like when I have people come over and they ask me, like, "Oh, you collect baseball cards?" I'm like, yeah, like, "Oh, you have a Babe Ruth card?" Right? Because people that don't really know baseball or baseball cards, they try to think of somebody that's like famous, and they're
Right.
like, "Oh, Babe
Right.
Ruth." I'm like, "Yeah, I've got a Babe Ruth." So I'll show 'em my Gowdy Ruth. It's a one, and never has anyone said, "Oh, it looks like crap." It's always, "Oh,
Right.
wow, a real Babe Ruth card," right?
Yeah.
So to me, as you get, I think, pre World War II, to me, it's all about finding a card you love,
Yeah.
and the condition to me, is way less relevant in a pre-war card than it is to me in a more modern card.
Yeah. Completely agree. Completely agree. All right, my number two. Now, again, the theme this year was pre-war stuff, and I started with the T206s just because they're the most famous. I remember as a kid, because I know now all the nationals and all that are all East Coast and Midwest and stuff. But when I was a kid, there were some massive shows in San Francisco where
Mhm.
all the national dealers would go every weekend. They were Labor Day weekend. They'd all go, and I mean, I remember walking in a couple of times, and the first table you'd see was Mister Mint, Al Rosen, and he'd have two cases, and they would just have $100 bills spread through the cases, and the sign that says "I'm buying," and it was always the first table.
Nice.
And I remember seeing that it was at least 2 or 3 times, at least. And I remember seeing, Honus Wagner's, and they have found some since then. There's more in existence than there was then that we know of. And at the time there were, less than 20. I don't remember the number. I don't even know how many there are now, but and I saw a couple of them, and that kind of just sticks with you, the T206 thing. And
Mhm.
so to me, the best looking T206 card for me um, is of a Hall of Famer who also was a Yankee, who also was a Yankee captain, who also I remember learning about in the Ken Burns documentary because Joe DiMaggio broke his hit streak,
Yep.
and that's Wee Willie Keeler. And to
Beautiful.
me, that is just a beautiful card. And I wanted one. And I kind of had to be patient and find, because I can't afford a five or a four. This is a two. But
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know who assigned it a two because
It's
to
beautiful.
me, it's the color and clarity are insane. The centering's insane. I mean, it's a gorgeous card, and I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite cards. Um,
It's a
and
beautiful card.
yeah, and it's a Piedmont, and I'm not really into the backs. I know some people are. It doesn't matter to me what the back is, but that was the third T206 card I bought. So that one would have been in the spring sometime, and I absolutely love that card. But hearing about his hit streak, and in the Ken Burns documentary, they did a whole segment about Joe DiMaggio trying to beat his streak, and you learn about some of those names that before that, before there was the internet, the only way you could learn about stuff was really encyclopedias. Like I remember I was like, "Oh, I have a research paper. I need to go get an encyclopedia."
Yeah.
Then you wouldn't go to the K section and look up Keeler.
Right.
So that was one of the beauties of that Ken Burns documentary is it was like, you know, pre-internet, you're starting to learn about the game beyond just word of mouth and books.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a
So,
beautiful card. I have that card too. Mine's a one.
mhm,
Um, I got that, actually, my dad, before he used to collect, before he sold his collection, what, probably 20 years ago. Keeler was one of his top people he collected. So he gave me his Keeler. It ended up getting a one. But yeah, like that's how I know about him, is that he was probably my dad's at the time, before my dad got into Jackie Robinson collecting. Keeler was kind of his guy. So it's good. Yeah, it's interesting to learn about him. I think he had what, the it's one of the high. He had the season where he batted like 426 or
Yeah,
something. He had
he
one of the
batted
highest
over
batting averages of
400.
all
Yeah,
time.
yeah. He's just, I mean, he was just a placement hitter. He was like Tony Gwynn, but all skinny and fast. So he
Right.
could bunt. He could bunt too. He just hit it,
Yeah.
spray it all over the field.
Hmm.
So, all right,
That's awesome.
last big pickup or favorite pickup for you from 2023.
So this is an old one. It's not a T206, but it's from the same year. It's a E92 Dockman and Sons. It's the Honus Wagner throwing pose.
Oh wow, that is awesome. So again, he's showing uh, a 1909 E92 Honus Wagner, and it's a been assigned a PSA 1, and it's got rounded corners, but you know what else it is? It's it's Honus Wagner, a
It's a yeah.
first ballot inaugural Hall of Famer. And one of the things I like about that set is so many of them have that beautiful sunset background,
Hmm.
and that has great color just above the horizon. You can see the orange and the yellow of the sunset. Several of those cards have that.
Hmm.
Um, Beautiful card.
Thank
That
you.
is awesome. And when did you get that one?
Um, this so it's funny when I did my top 100, I waited for this to get here before I did the video. So I probably got this. I probably got that card a day or two after you and I did our last. I did our video on Mike Moynihan's channel.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah,
realize it was that recent.
yeah. I literally just got it. So when I did my top 100, I said there were two cards in my top 50 that were new. It was the Jackie Robinson and the Honus Wagner.
Oh, wow.
First time shown.
That is amazing. I mean, and that's one of the things. That's one of the negatives of the mystique of the T206 Wagner is people think of, oh yeah, Honus Wagner, like the Honus Wagner card. But Honus Wagner was an unbelievable player, and
Hmm.
Honus Wagner was, you know, like I just said, he's a first ballot inaugural Hall of Famer, and there were some. I mean, Cy Young did not make the Hall of Fame in his first ballot. Tris Speaker didn't make the Hall of Fame in
Yeah,
his first ballot. There were second ballot Hall of Famers, but Honus Wagner is. I mean, I think sometimes we forget how good a guy
yeah.
like that was.
Absolutely. And then that's what's funny because when I tell people I got a Honus Wagner card, they're like, "Oh, is it the famous one?" I'm like, "Well, no, because then I'd be homeless and just have a cool card to show people."
You'd be more than homeless.
Exactly. I'd
Yeah.
be super broke. I'd owe my credit cards would be maxed out. It'd be pretty rough. But yeah, I try to explain to people the same thing, right? I'm like, well, if it's not that card, why'd you get it? I'm like, because he's one of the best. He's probably the best
Yeah.
shortstop of all time
Yeah.
and one of the best players of all time.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Really? I thought he was just the guy with the rare card." I'm like, "No." I go, "From that set, that'd be like the Joe Doyle. He was okay. He has a super rare card. It's worth millions of dollars, but it's not Honus Wagner. Honus Wagner had the rare card, plus he was the one of the greatest players of the time. I think, when he was at his peak, it was like him and Ty Cobb
Yeah.
were like neck and neck. Is like who's the best batter.
It's interesting because the other guy in that conversation is Nat Lajoie.
Mhm.
And so many people, I mean, why do we all know who Ty Cobb is? But so many people on the street, you'd go, "Hey, what do you think of Nat Lajoie?" And they'd be like, "Who is that?" But if you
Who is
said, "What do
that?
you think of Ty Cobb?" They'd know Ty Cobb. Like, it's so
Mhm.
weird.
I agree, and it's strange because it's kinda like the Wagner, right? People know Wagner because of his T206. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of people that if there's a lot of people that don't know, even in the hobby, that don't really know how good Lajoie was,
Yeah.
but they're familiar with his 33 Gaudi because it was the
Right.
card that it was like the error card. It didn't exist, and people
Yeah.
would be like, "Hey, I have the whole set, but there's a number missing." You'd send a
Yeah.
letter to Gaudi, and then they'd
Yeah.
paperclip that Lajoie, the green background
Yeah.
Lajoie, and they'd mail it back to you so you'd have
It,
your
it
complete
was the
set.
first redemption card.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I mean, it was, I mean, like, Panini was like, "Hey, well, what could we do marketing wise?" Well, they did this, and that seems like a big deal.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so weird that like people don't think of those guys when they were that good. Now,
Mhm.
all right, my last pickup. This is my first T206 card I ever bought, my first pre-war card I ever bought,
Nice.
and it is
Ooh,
my T206 Christy Mathewson in a 2. And I've been really, really picky when I'm buying these because I know that I've got to be in the 1 to 3 range to afford these cards. So I'm only picking ones that I think are severely misgraded. I mean,
Mhm.
I love the color on this, the centering on this, and it's a sweet cat back. So again, T206, Christy Mathewson, and he has 3 cards in the set. This is his dark cap, um, and yeah, I mean that is one of the focal points of my collection
That's a
for
beautiful
sure.
card. Congratulations.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
think, and honestly, like when I bought my T206 Matheson, I I bought it before COVID, so I could have chosen the light hat, dark hat, or portrait
Mhm.
because at the time they were similar. It's not like now where like the portrait's considerably more expensive.
Yeah,
Um, I went with the dark hat. I think that's the best looking of the 3 cards for sure.
yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things for me, as I'm trying to buy more of the T206s, is I'm certainly not looking at what's the price point or it's about the one I like. Like,
Mhm.
well, you'll see in a few minutes, there's a card from that set that I have on my list for my goals for 2024. And uh I like one that's not the most popular one, but
Mhm.
so with that said, now we're 50 minutes in, believe it or not. It feels like we just started to me. And we said to each other, let's not feel like we're on the clock. Let's just hang out. And if people shut us off halfway through, that's fine, but we're going to have a fun conversation. So,
Yep.
but we are at 50 minutes. So if people are still listening, appreciate it. So
Yeah,
now
thank
what we're
you.
going to do is we're going to transition to looking forward to 2024.
Yes,
And
let's look at 2024.
2024, what we did is per Darren's kind of advice to me, which is what we let off with, is from our last conversation, is kind of make a list of the cards that you want and put them in tiers and go, yeah, I'm probably only going to get one kind of goal card this year, or I may not even get a goal card this year because they're at a price point kind of that I have to save up for a while. But my tier 3, I might get 2 or 3 of those. So
Mhm.
what we did, and you haven't seen my list. I saw your list because I wanted to put the graphic together. But what we did is we picked 5 cards from our top goal list, our kind of grail/goal list, and then 5 cards from our second tier, and then 5 cards from our third tier. Now, again, your tier is a little bit different than mine. Your third tier is probably a little higher than my goal tier, but again, we can still collect and have fun together. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to go ahead and switch the screen a little bit here so that we can see the cards. If I can get this to work here. So I'm going to do, hold on a second. There we go. There it is. So this is Darren's third tier targets. So third tier price points on your list that you're really targeting for 2024. So I'll go ahead and read over the 5 in case people are listening, not watching. So the first one on the list is a 1954 Red Heart Mickey Mantle. The second one is the 33 Goudy Hack Wilson. The third is the T205 Christy Mathewson. The fourth is the 1964 top stand-up Mickey Mantle. And the fifth is the 1957 Topps Mickey Mantle. So take me through why you like these 5 cards, and then maybe tell me um, if you had to rank them and you were to buy one card off of this tier, what would be the one you'd go for? If all of them were in a case in front of you at a price point and a grade and a condition that you liked, which one
Perfect.
would you
Okay.
go for first?
So why I like each of these, I've got 3 mantles on here. My wife's a Mickey Mantle collector, and I was looking at her collection recently, and she has the 58 through the basically she has 58 through 62, except for the 57
Hmm.
from just tops. So I put the 57 tops on there because I think that'd be a cool one to get for her collection. Um, the stand up I like the stand up because I bought the Clementi stand up, which wasn't on my list. I saw it at the show, and we talked about this where we have a
Yeah.
plan and we go to the show and we absolutely do not follow it. Well, I did
Plan
that,
goes
and I
out the
picked up
window.
exactly. So I picked up the Clementi stand up, and I think it's a great looking card. And I figured that mantle would be just a great addition
Yeah,
to.
your Clemente is beautiful. Isn't it like an 8 or something, or
I think it's a 7.
7? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
thank you. So I got those two on there for that. Then the mantle Red Heart. I just think that's a really cool looking card. So one of the
Yeah.
things, just to caveat, 2023 for me was a rookie card collecting year. I think there
Mm,
was very few non-rookies that I bought that were that were a little bit higher dollar cards. For me, 2024 is I have a few rookies on the list, but it's not to me, it's not a rookie card collecting year anymore. For me, this year is more of buy cards that I just think look cool. So that's why that Red Heart mantle's on there.
yeah.
The Hack Wilson, I think A, I think it's a cool looking card, and B, I think it'd be cool to pick that one up. I believe that's his rookie card. Um, he's I can't remember what the year was, like 1930 something. He had 191 RBIs that
Right.
season. I think he's
Right.
a I think he's a great player, Hall of Famer. I just thought it'd be cool to have that card because it's in such an iconic set. I think
Mhm.
that's probably his most iconic looking card. So I wanted to throw that on there. And when I saw what they sold for, I was actually surprised. I thought they'd go for more than what they
They're
did.
very affordable.
And then the Mathewson, that one, I think that's probably one of the best looking cards in the hobby is a T205 Mathewson.
No doubt.
And when I saw what those sold for, I actually was pissed I didn't buy one already because I just assumed that would be one of his most expensive cards just because it's such a good looking one and it comes from a
Mhm.
set that's really tough because it has that gold border.
Yeah.
But compared to his T206s, it's less expensive. Compared to anything he has prior to 1909, it's very inexpensive. And I think the stuff he has after that one, that he has some good stuff, but I think that one looks I just think that one looks the best. When I saw what those sold for, I thought that was definitely one I wanted to put on the list.
Yeah,
And
so I'll give you a couple thoughts from my perspective. The Hack Wilson's hilarious because as a kid, I love that card too. It's on my list too. It's not on my list today, but it's on my want list someday.
Mhm,
As is the Christy Mathewson. But as a kid, I mean, we used to all be like stat fiends. Like it was all about tracking stats. And I
yeah,
can tell you what Tony Gwynn's batting average was, in the middle of July, and and I remember looking in the record books going like, Hack Wilson has 100 and how many RBIs? Like, and then the name is so recognizable. And then I remember seeing the card that summer, and it's such a recognizable, iconic looking card
mhm,
that I totally agree. And then the name, I mean, Hack Wilson. Like, come
right.
on, like this is like it's every box is checked. This is crazy. So okay, so if you were to get one of those today, now I know that you like being happily married, and you said that your wife is the mantle collector, so you would maybe lean towards getting a mantle for her before you'd look for yourself. That said, how which of these five, if they were all on a table in front of you in a case, would you buy first?
I'd probably say it would be very difficult for me because it would be a tie between the Red Heart mantle and the 57 tops mantle.
Yeah.
But I would say the 57 tops.
And the 57 tops is such it's got that mystique around it because it's got that airbrush in the background, right?
Mhm,
Where you can, if you're looking on the screen, I'm kind of right in here on the card, they airbrushed out somebody walking through the background. And so there's all this legend about it, and people say it's the ghost of Babe Ruth and stuff. Like it's kind of a cool card, and he's a little off center, but then his bat brings it in. Like it's a very cool card, but
mhm,
yeah, that would be a very tough choice. And the Red Heart, I mean, there are some beautiful cards from that set. The Warren Spawn is beautiful. The Stan Musial is beautiful.
mhm.
Like there's some really cool cards in that set. All right, let's go to my five. Now, this is the first time you will have seen these. Now, again, we're in different stratospheres, but that's okay. So, my five that I have in my third tier are the 57 Topps Don Drysdale. I think that is one of the most eye-appealing, cool-looking cards out there.
Hmm.
The big Brooklyn B on his hat, and the hat's kind of all been worn, and he looks like he's about 21 years old, and I love that card. The 61 Topps Juan Marichal. Growing up in Northern California, there's a lot of Giant fans, and Juan Marichal. And again, I love the cards where the guy's rookie cards they look so young, and he looks so young in that picture.
Hmm.
My dad has a really nice one of those, which is probably the reason I haven't bought one yet. Is I'm like, well, if I want to look at one, I can go over and look at my dad's.
Yeah,
He's
I'm with you
5
on
minutes
the cars as
away.
well.
And then I've got the 1950 Bowman autogram rookie card.
That's an
Um,
iconic. That's a very iconic football card.
Absolutely, and it's come way down in price. It During the whole goat thing going on during COVID, it went crazy. And I mean, I saw one the other day, in a 3 grade for a very reasonable price. And so that's the reason it's third tier. A year ago, this would have probably been first or second tier.
Sure.
But I'm a autogram collector. I just don't have his 51 or 50, his first and second year card. Then I've got the T206 Frank Chance. Frank Chance has, I think, 3 cards in the T206 set. This is the one I kind of lean toward as my favorite. I've mentioned a few times that I am trying to put together a run of Yankee captains, and I have the first 4 Yankees captains. Again, I'm looking at them on the wall. I got Clark Griffith, Kid Elberfeld. I've got the Keeler, and then the Hal Chase, and then the 5th one is Frank Chance. So I'm kind of moving my way through that. So that's one I'd
Nice.
want. And then Eddie Collins. I mean, I one of the regrets I have is I was the second highest bidder on that card, severely undergraded in a 2 this year. But I mean, what's he like, number 11 all time on the hits list?
Hmm.
And I think that it's a beautiful card, and I'm trying to collect as many Hall of Famers from the T206 set as I can. So,
Yeah, that's a beautiful card. I love that one. I love the red background on it.
and you have that, right?
I do. I do.
Yeah, because I remember when you were doing your top 50 player countdown. I believe that was one of the cards that you showed off.
Hmm.
Again, if you're not a subscriber yet of Darren's, highly encourage it. One of the things he's been doing for a while is once a week on Fridays, he drops, he's going through from 50 to 1, his all time top player list, and he shows off cards that he has from each of those players. And so that was one of the Eddie Collins cards that he showed off, maybe 2, 3 weeks ago when you
Yeah.
were at it. And what number are you on right now on that list?
Number 30 drops tomorrow.
Okay. So check that out if you've not yet subscribed to Darren. So let's go to, let's say if all those were in a case, which one would I buy first? If it was a price and the card look that I liked the most, I'd probably go with the Frank Chance because it's T206 Hall of Famer, which is something I'm collecting, and then it's Yankee Captain, which is something that I'm collecting, and I think it's a beautiful pre-war card, and so I tend to lean toward the pre-war stuff, and only 2 of those 5 are pre-war cards. But again, my list: 57 Topps Don Drysdale, 61 Topps Juan Marichal, 1950 Bowman Autogram, T206 Frank Chance with the orange background, and then the T206 Eddie Collins portrait. All right, so now the second tier. Oh, I went with me first. Sorry, so I'm going again.
No, go for it.
Still in the show. So my second tier list is the 1955 Topps Jackie Robinson. I love the 56, but the 55 is my favorite Jackie Robinson card. I just like the color contrast with the yellow background. The 1972 Topps Julius Erving rookie card. The 55 Topps Sandy Koufax rookie card. The 33 Gowdy Rogers Hornsby. and the 33 Gaudy Mel Ott. Now, the Hornsby and the Ott, they have 2 cards in the set. This is the Hornsby where he's fielding a ball, not the one where he's kind of leaning on the step in the dugout. And then the Mel Ott has he has the one where he's got kind of a scowl on his face with the green background, which I absolutely love the look of that card. And then he also has another one where it's pulled back a little bit, and he's just kind of looking at you, but it's got I think a red background.
Red, yeah.
Yeah. So I mentioned recently that I can't believe I don't have a Jackie Robinson card. I think that's borderline inexcusable. So that has to be fixed this year. To me, one of the best looking cards of the 50s is the Sandy Koufax rookie card. I think it's, again, a rookie card, and he looks like he's like 20 years old. And I love that card. Mel Ott, again, I was living in Northern California. Went to a lot of Giants games, and I remember seeing the retired numbers out there, and it always had Ott. And I was just, 8, 9, 10 years old. I'm like, who's Ott? And then out of the interest of seeing his name, Ott with his number, you start going, well, I want to find out who this guy is. So then you start reading about him and researching him, and you realize, oh, he was like a massive power hitter before there were many power hitters, And I think the look of that card is gorgeous. And then as far as basketball goes, probably the 4 biggest cards, maybe 5. The Wilt Chamberlain rookie 61 Fleer is awesome. Don't have that, but that one would be in a different stratosphere right now. The Dr. J rookie card is a big one that I don't have. I have the Bird Magic Johnson rookie card. That was another big pickup in the last 12 months. Might have been more like 15 months ago.
Nice.
And then the Jordan rookie are kind of like the big 5 for me. And that's the most affordable of the 5 that I don't have. So I'm trying to just stair step my way up.
Nice.
So, and if those were all 5 in front of me, again, right now I'm on this pre-war kick. So I would lean toward one of the Gaudis, and I think that I would go, if all 5 were in front of me in a case and I had the money, I would probably go with the 33 Gaudy Mel Ott would probably be my pick if I had to choose one of them from this tier.
Nice.
Do you have how many of these 5 cards do you have?
I've got the Koufax and I've got the green Ott.
Okay. Do you have the red Ott too?
I do. So my red Ott is graded. My green Ott is not graded. I don't know. I have it on the shelf somewhere. Yeah, when I did my countdown video and I covered Mel Ott, I showed both of those cards.
Very cool. All right, so let's go to your second tier since I went twice in a row. I think I did that because it was going to be anticlimactic if I went last after looking at your Grail card list. So I switched the order around. All right, here we go. Darren's 2024 second tier targets. So he's got the 49 Leaf Joe DiMaggio, the 49 Leaf Ted Williams, the 53 Topps Jackie Robinson, the 54 Dandy Mickey Mantle, and the 54 Bowman Mickey Mantle. So tell me why are you interested? I mean, I know why you're interested in these cards, but why are these 5 the 5 that rose to the top of the list in tier 2 for you?
Because a couple of reasons. So one, I want to get more now that I've got the Bowman Robinson 49. I want more Jackie Robinson cards because like you, I had none, and I kind of it wasn't just I don't have his card. It's like, well, Honus Wagner, I didn't have a Honus Wagner card, but I wanted one. To me, Jackie Robinson, I feel like it's almost like sacrilegious to collect baseball cards and not have Jackie Robinson cards. So
yeah,
I want more of them. This one, I think I love the 53 top set. It's one of my favorite sets. I think they look beautiful. Kind
Mhm.
of like how I've got the 49 page 49 Robinson. I have a 53 page, so I figured get the 53 Robinson. I think they display nicely next to each other, so
Mhm.
that's why I have the 53 Robinson on here. The 49 Leaf Ted Williams, I think, is probably in the top 10 best looking baseball cards.
Yeah.
I just like the way the color pops, and it's, when you look at Ted Williams' early cards, you have his rookie card where he's swinging, but like they took the picture from like behind, so like you see like the side of his face as he's like finishing the swing. So
Mhm.
it's a cool card. It's a kind of card, but I don't think it's a great looking card. I think his two best looking cards, at least of his earlier cards, are his 41 play ball, the one where it's the red background,
Yeah.
and then this one. I have the 41, so I wanted to pick this one up because I think it just looks. I just think it's a great looking card. The Joe D. Um, I just want to pick up. He doesn't have that many playing years cards, right? If you include
Right.
some of like the kind of rarer ones, like the Worldwide Gum and his O-Pee-Chee and Z-Nut cards prior to the Gaudy big head that I have, those are all tough cards. But the rest, I mean, all of his cards are, none of them are easy cards. But if I go for my next Joe D card, I have his 1939 play ball, the one where he's just like a black and white smiling face.
Right.
So if I want to go next card, kind of in the flow, there's some play balls that I'm looking at, but I think the 49 Leaf looks really good. So
Mhm.
I have that on there. Plus, I think it's his last. I think it's his last playing days card
I
too.
believe it
So
is his last one, yeah.
yeah, so that one. So I just thought that was cool. And then the two mantles. This year, because I'm not focusing as much on rookie cards this year, I do want to get some kind of oddball stuff. So I feel, the Dandy Chips mantle I thought was kind of a cool oddball one. Plus,
Right.
it's a good image.
It
My
is a
wife,
good image.
my wife, when I showed her a picture of it, my wife told me that she thinks he looks hot in that picture. So I was like, well, definitely should add that one. And then the 54 Bowman mantle is, I think, is one of the, again, kind of like that Williams. I think that's one of the best looking cards in the hobby.
Yeah, it's a beautiful card. Um, you know, I was at a show, about 3 months ago, and a guy who actually, we started talking, who had seen the channel and stuff, was a dealer who he was a guy who got in with a bunch of estate sailors, or
Okay.
it's like not estate sale, estate liquidators.
Okay.
And so, like, when, family member passes on, they bring someone else in to just, you know, sell everything. And he's like their card person. So whenever there are cards, they call him and come in, and he has first crack at it, which sounds like it should be the premise for a TV show, right?
Mhm.
And he had a 49 leaf Ted Williams, and it was centered perfectly,
Oof.
and it had a crease right around his belt line all the way across, but it's such a fine crease, you could hardly even see it. And so it got a 1 grade, and it was a beautiful one, and I'm like, "I think I need to buy this." Like,
Right.
I mean, because it's selling for one price, but it looks like a 3 or a 4, like,
Sure.
from just eye appeal. And like, I literally went to his table like 3 times looking at it, and part of me is kicking myself that I didn't do it, but, like, for me, that's a really top of the budget kinda, once or twice a year kinda card. But
Mhm.
yeah, I agree. I mean, all 5 of these particular choices are beautiful cards. Again, it's the 49 leaf Joe DiMaggio, the 49 leaf Ted Williams, the 53 tops Jackie Robinson, the 54 Dandy Mickey Mantle, and the 54 Bowman Mickey Mantle. Beautiful, beautiful eye appeal cards all the way across. All right. If you were at a show, all 5 are in a case at a fair price and good eye appeal, which one would you get first?
I'd probably go with the 54 Bowman mantle.
Yeah. How do you compare? What do you think of the 56 tops mantle? Or do you love it, or not love it?
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
Okay.
it. So when I
Some
started
people
my
don't,
run,
but yeah.
when I got back into collecting, I started my Nolan Ryan run,
Hmm.
and the only card I think about 2 cards, 2 yeah, about 2 cards during that run that weren't Ryan's. It was the 56 Topps Mantle and a, 54 Topps Hank Aaron.
Wow.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I love the 56 Topps Mantle.
Yeah.
It's probably one
Beautiful.
of my favorite Mantle cards.
Yeah. I agree. I think it is a gorgeous card as well. All right. My top tier list. So this is a list that I'm hoping to get one card from this year. If I were to get two, I would be beside myself. So all right. So, not to anybody's surprise, I got my 54 tops Ernie Banks. So for me, the top tier is kind of like over $1,000, $1,200 is kind of like my top of the mark list. So the Banks has come down. So 54 tops Ernie Banks, 48 Bowman Yogi Berra. Those are the two Grail cards I've been chasing since I was about 12 years old, literally 12 years old. The 33 Gaudy Bobby Jones, which is from the Sports King set. The T206 Ty Cobb Bat on Shoulder. And the 48/49, whatever you want to call it, Leaf Warren Spawn. So again, everybody knows by now, if you know me, that the 54 Banks is a card. And people say, why don't you just buy it? It's not that easy. It's not as easy as just buying it. I have to look at it and it's got to feel like the one. And there
Mhm.
are a lot of people, like I've had people reach out and go, hey, I've got like people have emailed me and say, hey, I have a 54 Banks. I'll sell it to you. I'll give you a good deal. And I'm like, they'll send a picture and I'm like, it's a nice card, but that's not the one. Like
Sure.
it's like you walk into the house that you're going to live in and you go, this is the house. This is the
Mhm.
one we're buying. I got to feel that way. And I might someday buy a 2 Ernie Banks and it might be a 5. I have no idea, but I have to look over it and it's got to be the one. And that's one of the reasons that I haven't gotten it. The same thing with the 48 Bowman Yogi Berra. There was a guy at a card show. I did a card show vlog about, I don't know, 2, 3 weeks ago. And he has a really nice 48 Bowman Yogi Berra. And I've looked at it every time he's been at the show for the last year. And it's a really, really nice one. And it almost feels like the one, but then on top of that, he's asking about $400, $500 more than they go for. So
Mhm.
he has not adjusted his prices since the dip. So, um, and then again, one of my goals this year is to branch out a little bit. Golf cards are part of going to be a bigger part of my collection. Bobby Jones is as big a name as there is in vintage, vintage golf cards. Some people would say old Tom Morris. There are a few other big names. And some other cards I picked up. In fact, I've got a Walter Hagen that I picked up recently that I'll be
Nice.
showing soon. But this is sort of like the iconic Bobby Jones card, even though I just showed my Bobby Jones rookie card, which is a beautiful card. I love it. That's the iconic Bobby Jones card, the
Mhm.
33 Gaudy Bobby Jones from the Sport King set. T206, the ultimate goal is to buy a Ty Cobb from the T206 set. That's the top of the top. And to me, my favorite Ty Cobb card is the Bat on Shoulder. I tend to lean towards the portraits in the T206 set, but for me, that card for Ty Cobb is the one that is the one I want. I don't really know how to explain it. Just that's when I think of Ty Cobb, it's that. It's not the portrait. Whereas in
Mhm.
the Willie Keeler, it's the portrait.
Right.
And then the 48 Leaf Warren Spawn, I first fell in love with that card at a show about a year and a half ago. I saw it in a 2 and I almost bought it. And I flipped it over and there was a stain at the top that just was driving me crazy. And I just
Mhm.
couldn't get over it. And since then, I've been kind of stuck on it I need that Spawn card, even though I also had a big month. I sold a lot of stuff, so I bought a lot of stuff. I just
Nice.
bought a 48 Bowman Warren Spawn, which I'll show in my December pickup video. But that one, I don't know, there's something special about that card.
It's a great looking card. It's like the
Yeah.
cog. They're both iconic looking well, all 5 of those are iconic looking cards. They're all beautiful. But yeah, no, I get it. Like I think you feel the way about that Spawn, kind of like how I feel about the 49 or the 48 leaf, 49 leaf Ted Williams.
Yeah. No, a lot of people do. I did a video recently about what do you think is the most beautiful card of all time? And a couple people said that Leaf Ted Williams. And I do like the looks of it when I saw pictures of it, when I was including it on the video. But then when I saw one in my hands at the show, the one I was telling you about a second ago, I'm like, oh yeah, this hits differently. This is
Mhm.
this is in person. It's even more beautiful than it is on the screen. So I totally get it. Um, the Grail card is the 54 tops banks, so I would have a hard time not picking that. But at the same time, it's almost become like a thing where not having it's like I don't know if I'll ever find a card that will meet what I need it to be because I've built it up so big at this point. So I don't know. I'm starting to get pessimistic. Like my dad's like, "You'll find one at the national that you like." Well, I'm like, I know I'll see 100 of them at the national,
Mm,
but I don't know if I'll see one and it'll live up to what I mean, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, it needed to be a 4 or less, but it has to be centered. It has to be perfect surface. It has to
right.
have nice corners. It can't be miscut top to bottom. I mean, it's like that doesn't exist. That's called an 8, Greg.
Right, exactly.
So I don't know, but when the year ends, I'd love to have 2 of these. I think I'll have one of them.
Okay, nice.
And the one that I'll have, if I was at a show, I mean, I have to say the Banks, but I just have a feeling I'm not going to have a Banks a year from now. And by the way, if you're listening, watching still after an hour and 21 minutes, thank you. And a year from now, we're making it a tradition, whether Darren likes it or not. Next New Year's Eve, we're going to do this again and we're going to show our pickups, but we're also going to go through the list and we're going to see which ones we've checked off the list. So, and where our opinions and interests have changed and what direction we're headed at that point, because a lot can happen in a year.
Mhm,
But yeah, so I don't think I'm going to end up with the Banks. I think if I were to have one of these cards this year, I think it might be the Barra.
okay,
I predict I'll have the Barra, not the Banks. But if I were to pick one, I want the Banks the most just because it's been a 30-year project, 30 plus
sure,
year project.
sure.
All right, so here we are, the last screen here. So we got Darren's 2024 targets, which we call the gold tier, because we kind of think the term Grail is not necessarily appropriate all the time, but
Yep,
these are definitely some Grail cards for us. So we've got the 51 Bowman Mickey Mantle, the 34 Gaudy Lou Gehrig with that yellow background, the 41 Play Ball Joe DiMaggio, the 50 Bowman Jackie Robinson, and the 52 Tops Jackie Robinson. So tell me, what do you love about these 5 cards?
well, the Mantle rookie is the Mantle rookie, right? Like, it's not his 52 tops. I think 52 tops is a cool card, but the 51 Bowman, that's his true rookie card, and I've always wanted it. It's always out of reach. Every time I kind of get close to being able to do it, I'll find one. I'll be like, okay, this is what it's going for. Found it. I'll save. And when I'm ready to pull the trigger, I go back. The one I want, it's gone. And then there's one that's much worse condition. That's a little bit more than the one that I found. So this
Hmm.
has been like, I think it's kind of like your Ernie Banks card.
Yeah.
It's like you get close and it's just not right, and then you're like, wait, maybe I should, and then it's gone, and then it just keeps going, right? So I've just been chasing this one forever, and I just love the card. I think it's a great image of Mantle.
Hmm.
So yeah, I just love it. But Gaudy, the Gehrig, this kind of goes to my whole not necessarily focusing on just rookies anymore.
Hmm.
Um, I love the look of that card. I like his smiling face on there is really cool. Plus, the 34 Gaudy set, every single card says Lou Gehrig says at the bottom. So I thought it was cool to get a Lou Gehrig card
Yeah.
with Lou Gehrig says.
Yeah.
Um, the DiMaggio, the 41 play ball DiMaggio, it's just such a good looking card, right? Like I view this one like I view the 48, 49 Leaf DiMaggio, but this one is pre-war, right? So
Yeah.
it's just, I think it's an iconic looking card. The 50 Bowman Jackie Robinson, I think it's a really cool card. I love the image of him on it. I like the 50 Bowmans because they're small, kind of like
Yeah.
the 49s. In general, I just love the card. And if I'm going to start picking up more Jackie Robinsons, that one's definitely on my list. And then the 52 tops Jackie Robinson, I personally think that is my favorite card from the 52 top set. I like it more than the Maze. I like it more than the Mantle. I think it's such a great. I love that dark red background. I think just the card itself is a beautiful card, and
Hmm.
it's a cool image of Jackie Robinson because he looks super happy in that picture.
Hmm. Yeah. Again, one of the things I really enjoy about your collecting habits is that you are, like me, very much into the eye appeal cards, the cards that are attractive cards.
Mm,
And I know that the 51 Bowman Mantle gets overshadowed by the 52 Tops, but it's a beautiful card. I mean,
mm,
it pains me to put it on the screen sideways but I had to find a way to make this fit and
sure.
be somewhat uniform. But I mean, all five of these cards again are just like beautiful images of all-time greats, and I think that they're definitely, all of these are cards that when I'm at a show and I'm looking through a case and one of these cards are in the case, I stop and take an extra close, extra long look at these cards because they're so attractive,
Hmm.
which is very cool. So if you're at a show, all five are in the case. Good look, good eye appeal, fair price. Which one are you grabbing?
See, this list is the toughest for me
Yeah.
because I want that Mantle rookie. Like I really want that card, but it's by far the most expensive. So if money wasn't a thing, the Mantle.
Hmm.
But I think if I was at a show and they were priced fairly, the first one I'd probably pick up would be, I would say either the DiMaggio or the Gehrig, only because you could find them sometimes at a price point that's not absurd.
Right.
If I had to just pick straight up, say, hey, money's not an object, I'd pick up the 52 tops Jackie Robinson. But that card's been going a little crazy recently. I think I found a 2.5 that was at a price point I'd be okay with. That sold, and then as soon as it sold, a two started selling for more, and then a 1.5 was actually selling for what the 2.5 it just sold for.
I
So,
missed that. What card are you talking about?
the 52 tops Jackie Robinson.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
thought you said, but I wasn't positive.
yeah,
Yeah,
that one's tough, and it was funny because I probably wouldn't have put it on this list had I not gone to the national. Because when I went to the national, I bought my Satchel Paige from a dealer, and he was like, "Oh, you like these like older vintage cards of the Negro League players that had just come over to Major League Baseball?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Hang on a sec." He had a safe like behind the table. He had like a floor safe, like a gun safe looking thing. He opened the safe and walked over, and he goes, "What do you think of this?" And he slid it across the his glass case. It was a 52 tops Jackie Robinson and a PSA 9.
oh,
Yeah,
I mean
it's
that
one of
that's
two.
that's gotta be like, what, $200,000 card? Something like that?
He paid $1 million for it.
Oh, so I was
Yeah.
shows you I don't live in that stratosphere.
Yeah, no, I'm like, "Oh my god." And when I saw that when I actually held the card, I
Yeah,
was like, it's kinda like what you're talking about with that Ted Williams, where you see pictures of it and you're like, "Oh, that's cool." But then you actually hold one and you're like,
yeah,
"Oh, wow." That
yeah.
one's probably the most kind of, "Oh, wow" card I've ever held when I saw a real one versus seeing pictures of them. So if I were to just say, money's not a concern, that Jackie Robinson 52 toss would be the first one that I pick. But,
Mhm.
knowing like being logical of where I think my budget is right now, I would guess that it's one of the three in the middle.
Yeah. Now let me ask you one quick question as we're coming up on an hour and a half. But I can't believe how much fun I'm having. But
Yeah,
um, if you when you look at five cards like this, do you have are there certain qualities that you need the card to have? Like, does it need to be like? And again, I don't want to get into numbers. I don't want to say, well, it has to be at least a three. Like
sure.
but it has to be at least that three range of that doesn't have multiple creases. It doesn't have big paper losses. Like the things that threes have. Like what's kind of and again using grades just as a guide of the quality of the card, what's kind of the range, the grade range that you look at, or is it a price point that you look at? Is it like, well, I can't go above the four in the mantle because then I'm talking about over, 30,000 or whatever it would be. Or is it about the quality of the card and what? So is it price point that drives it, or is it the condition that drives it? Um, I know the answer is both, but what drives it the most on these?
So I would say for my tier 3 cards, it's eye appeal. For my tier 2 cards, it's more or less eye appeal. For the gold tier though, it's price. So I would say based on current price, and that's where I run into issues. That's why I haven't picked up that mantle yet. I don't want to pay five figures for a card because I've never paid five figures for a card before. Um, and I don't know if I want to for a card that's in like crappy shape, right? I've seen some that are going for around 10,000 of the mantle
Hmm.
that have those white print lines across it. It's got stains on it. It's got bad corners. It's off center. Like I don't want to spend that kind of money on that. So that's why I might hold off on the mantle until I could find till the prices kind of maybe hopefully come back down to earth a little bit where I could find one that's like a really good quality two, closer to that price point.
Hmm.
For the Gehrig, same kind of thing. I'd probably look at that and actually here, let me take a look at my spreadsheet because I have the grades. Um,
Oh, the grades that you look in.
yeah, so for the Gehrig, um, I'm looking at that in a three.
Okay.
So what I have on my list, I've got the mantle in a two, but it's a two because I'm waiting for the two to get like reset on price. The
Sure.
Gehrig I'm looking at in a three. The DiMaggio, that's the 41 play ball DiMaggio. I'm looking at that in a four. The 50 Bowman Robinson, I'm looking at that in a five.
Hmm.
And then the 52 tops Jackie Robinson, I have it still as a 2.5, but I think it might end up being a two because the 2.5 I found was really nice. I didn't have the money to buy it when I saw it, and it sold super fast. Like I noticed that on eBay sometimes is you'll see a card and you go back and check it month after month
Yeah.
and it's still there.
Yeah.
And other times you'll see a card and you're like, wow, that seems reasonable. And then you go back like the next day and it's gone because somebody else that had more cash than I do thought the same thing and they could jump on it right away.
Right. Sorry about that. Sorry.
Hey,
Sorry to buy those cards out from under you.
yeah, thanks, Greg. Appreciate
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
We know. Well, I have got to be honest with you. So again, your gold here: 51 Bowman Mantle, 34 Gaudy Lou Gehrig, 41 play ball Joe DiMaggio, 50 Bowman Jackie Robinson, and 52 tops Jackie Robinson. Now, I got to tell you, I'm going to be. We're back to our normal screen now. I cannot believe how much fun this was for me.
Yeah, no, it was
Like
a great time.
last time we did this, I legitimately had a blast. I've been looking forward to this date to do this, and
Me
this has
too.
been so much fun. I don't know. I mean, again, if you're open to it, maybe I would love to do this once a month and
Sure.
not and just have different topics. Obviously we're not going to talk about our goals for the month,
Right.
but I have no doubt that we'll come up with a 30 to 45 minute type talk once a month. So if you're open to that, I would really
Yeah,
enjoy that a
absolutely.
lot
That'd be
because this is
great.
a lot of fun.
That's yeah. I had a great time. No, absolutely, I'd be down for that.
Okay, so again, year in review. We just showed our top 5 favorites, but I highly encourage you to check out Darren's top 100 card countdown. His collection is it's getting to the point, Darren, where your collection is getting to the top of the top of the people that I'm aware of. Like
I
your
appreciate
collection
that.
is getting so good so fast. It genuinely is a treat to just see it.
Thank you.
And I wish there were more ways that we uh, could enjoy it than just wait for your 100 yearly 100 top 100 card countdown, and you might need to expand it beyond 100 if you keep on at the pace that you're on. But and then this year again, I'm looking forward to hanging out at the National.
Me too.
Definitely planning on spending some time walking the tables with you in
Hmm.
Cleveland.
Me too.
And it would be very cool and symbolic if one of us were to pick up one of these 15 cards we each have at the show together after talking about it here at the very end of 2023.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. That'd be a blast. I can't wait.
Is there anything coming up on your channel or recent things that you want to share real quick before we shut this down? Or,
Not
you know,
really. I've got so my top 50 players of all time countdown. I'm about a month away for being halfway done already, which is surprising. I feel like I just started it like last week, but I'm 21 weeks into it already.
mhm.
So I've got that. And if you haven't, if you haven't watched any of my top 50 before, now's a good time to start because the guys from 31 to 50 I thought were all great players, but now we're getting into the ones that I at least think are the absolute greatest of all time. Like in the
They're all
next,
household names at this
yes,
point. Yeah.
yes, there might be one or two that are that if you're into baseball you've heard of. You might not be able to ask people on the street, but yeah, most of the rest of the ones coming up are guys that everybody's heard of, everybody knows.
Yeah.
So I'm pumped about that. But yeah, that's pretty much, I've got that going on. And I have a couple new cards coming in. Nothing from the list, but get some cards coming in. And one of the things I just started doing about a month ago was I'm starting to pick up early cards, not necessarily rookies, because sometimes they're tough to find, even if they're not super expensive. I just can't find them. But early cards of maybe the top, like the first like 20 or so players to break the color barrier and come into Major League Baseball. I'm
Mm.
trying to get, I'm trying to get early cards from the like maybe the first 20, and I'll do a video on that when I get closer. I've got a few on order that I'm waiting to have come in. Some of them actually shocked me. Like one of them was a 50 Bowman. I bought it in the 6. It's the guy's rookie card. And just a 50 Bowman in a 6 in general should be pricey. I think I paid $40 for it. So I was actually
Wow.
surprised at, with some exceptions, obviously, Jackie Robinson and Willie Mays and guys like that.
Right.
But there's a lot of guys that I hadn't even heard of that were very early to break the color barrier, and their cards are incredibly reasonable and they're beautiful looking cards too. So I have that, working on that too. So I'll probably do a video, I'd guess probably like in February-ish, and show some
Cool.
of those. So that's kind of what I have going on right now. I've got with the holidays and everything, I've depleted my card budget for a little while.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, Darren, return to collecting. Check out his channel. Subscribe if you haven't. You guys don't realize how much of a compliment it is. Whenever you see a new subscription, you're like, oh man, that's cool. Somebody likes my channel. Like it's a huge compliment. So when you go check out Darren's channel and his top 100 cards, hit the subscribe button because genuinely it it's the way you reward the person for putting in the work for putting that content out there. So
I
do that for
appreciate
Darren.
that.
You'll be very glad that you did. His collection's awesome, and obviously he's a great guy. So
Thanks,
with
Greg. I
that,
appreciate that.
yeah, with that, there goes 2023. 2024 has a lot in store. And hopefully we'll do this once a month. And I don't know if we want to rotate who hosts it or something, but
Sure.
we'll catch up. We'll figure out those details. And I look forward to more of these conversations selfishly. And if you've stuck around for an hour and 39 minutes, you deserve a prize. So thank
Yes.
you for that. And thank
Yeah.
you for
Thanks,
that
everybody.
support. All right.
We're literally about to hit 100 minutes. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Darren, for joining me, and awesome stuff.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. It was a blast.
Awesome.